Let's move on now to talk about the President of the United States. The President, Joe Biden, has arrived in the United Kingdom at Stansted Airport, and clearly there are tensions now over his decision to send cluster bombs to Ukraine. Air Force One touched down at Stansted Airport. He is meeting the Prime Minister today and also the King later on at Windsor Castle. This is just obviously before the Crunch NATO summit, which is happening in Lithuania, which starts on Tuesday. Well, joining me now is Colonel James Sunderland, Conservative MP. Good morning to you.
Good morning, David.
It's
looking very deaf this morning.
That's very kind of you. Yes, it's unusual, isn't it? Normally I'm a little dressed in a rather different way. Can I just start by saying, in terms of Joe Biden arriving, obviously he wasn't here for the coronation. He has chosen to come here before this NATO summit that happens in Lithuania. I thought it was really interesting this morning that there was a curved ball thrown in where he said basically Ukraine is not ready for NATO membership. I know the UK is pushing hard for Ukraine to join NATO. Your thoughts on that?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because, of course, the media are speculating this morning that he's here in some way to provide recompense for not being at the coronation. But Rishi, Sunak and Biden have met at least 5 times in recent months. The relationship, it's a very good relationship, and I'm pretty confident that today will be very productive. But in terms of NATO membership, it's an interesting one because the UK line is that we should be supporting Ukrainian membership as soon as possible. But there are, of course, some tests. There's a very high bar for membership, and it may well be that the US and the UK are at odds at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, just in terms of that, do you think it's the right thing to do for Ukraine to join NATO at this stage so quickly?
That's a million-dollar question. I mean, I personally think it's the right thing to do, but it's a question of when. So we all know Ukraine's going to join. We all know that Ukraine has to join. But in terms of the criteria by which Ukraine has to join, there are so many tests and so many high bars that need to be overcome first. There can't be a fast track. Ukraine is in contact at the moment. It's in conflict with Russia. It'd be very unprecedented, I think, for any nation to be granted NATO membership if they're in contact. So I think we have to eject the Russians first and then think about the membership issue.
I think many people share that view as well. Just in terms of, obviously, there is a disparity now between the United Kingdom and the United States. Joe Biden sanctioning the use of cluster munitions. Many countries vehemently opposed to this, 130 countries, including the United Kingdom. Your thoughts on that as well? It seems a very odd move from Biden. Clearly, they are used by the United States, also by Russia. Is it the right move?
Yeah, I mean, the UK position is pretty clear on this. We've signed the treaty, which means that we can't provide them ourselves. We are providing lots of support, as we know, tanks, Storm Shadow, lots of money, weaponry. But it's an issue for the American government, and ultimately the Americans don't have an issue with cluster bombs. We do need to put the conflict to an end. And unfortunately, Russia just is not getting the message. I mean, Russia is completely failing to read the room. And if we need to, up in terms of escalation, if we need to provide weapons that will do the job, then so be it. But as I said earlier, it's an American decision.
Well, I just wonder what it does in terms of the public support for Ukraine, because I'm not sure it will go down terribly well with people. We know that cluster munitions can lie there dormant. They can kill innocent civilians as well. That changes the rules.
Yeah, I mean, look, 2 wrongs don't make a right. But what I would say to you is that if you look at the pattern of behaviour from the Russians over the last 18 months, it is pretty grim. I mean, targeting hospitals, targeting women and children, targeting schools, lobbing weapons into densely populated civilian areas. I mean, it's not great. And I have to tell you that the Russians still haven't got the message. And if the Americans have made an operational decision to provide the Ukrainians with cluster bombs, then so be it. No one likes it, but war is a messy, dirty business, and what we have to do is to kick the Russians out as soon as possible.
And just in terms of that, how will Putin get the message?
Well, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, I think that existentially, NATO is not going to get directly involved. That is the position that we've had since day one, and it's entirely right. I mean, this is a Ukrainian issue, but we are rightly supporting Ukraine in the defence of their country. But this, for me, has always been an issue of domestic politics. For me, it's about Putin getting the message both internationally and from his own people. I think his position is very, very untenable at the moment. And no doubt the Russian people at some point will speak.
And just in terms of Joe Biden coming in, of course, the Northern Ireland Protocol, the Windsor Framework, that's very interesting. As you know, I have a massive issue with the Windsor Framework. And clearly Biden is here. Just in terms of the UK-US relationship, obviously the Windsor Framework, I think, sort of defrosted that relationship slightly. Is the relationship still strong?
It's a very strong relationship. I mean, it is the special relationship. And what's interesting is that the media in recent weeks have overblown issues that perhaps aren't perfect between the two countries. But it's a measure of good friendship that they can talk about these issues. I personally want to see a trade deal ASAP between the Americans and the Brits. I want to see Ben Wallace as the next NATO Secretary General. I would love some US support for that. So there are issues, but what I would say about the Windsor Framework, it was a step in the right direction. It was supported by the Americans, and rightly so. This is about pragmatic politics. It's about doing the right thing in the short term. There's no loss of sovereignty with the Windsor Framework. So in my view, it is part of that evolving...
Even though Northern Ireland remains in the EU, in the customs union single market, no loss of sovereignty?
Well, there is the veto, and we've had this discussion before, but my view is right now it's about delivering a pragmatic outcome for the people of the island of Ireland, both north and south. The Windsor Framework does that. It's not a perfect solution. It's not the end game. It's a step in the right direction.